Donald Trump has admitted freely that he contributes to everybody. And he has also acknowledged why he contributed to politicians all across the country. In his own words, he says he contributes so that when he calls, they kiss his ass. That statement may come back to bite him, particularly in the state of Florida. I'm going to play this clip regarding one of the politicians that he made a illegal campaign contribution to, that decided not to join the New York or California lawsuits against Trump University. Now, you're going to have, unfortunately, a single Trump surrogate that's basically going to try to defend him, and it's a weak defense. Anyway, here's the clip from MSNBC.
I've given to everybody because that was my job. I got to give to them because when I want something, I get it. When I call, they kiss my ass.
That was Donald Trump back in January talking about money in politics, more specifically his own money and how he used it to purchase political influence. Now those words are coming back to haunt him after an Associated Press report shined the Klieg lights on one Florida official who was on the receiving end of some of that Trump cash. Since 2008, Floridians have been among the dissatisfied customers in states across the country complaining that Trump Institute, a Florida-based affiliate of Trump University, had bilked them out of thousands of dollars. In September of 2013, the Orlando Sentinel reported that Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi was reviewing a New York lawsuit against Trump University and considering whether or not Florida should join a multi-state investigation into those allegations of fraud against Trump's real estate seminars. But just a few days after that announcement, a political group behind Bondi's 2014 re-election received a check for $25,000 from a Trump family foundation. This week, the Associated Press is reporting that the money arrived after Bondi personally solicited Trump for that contribution, and that after the check came in, Bondi's office nixed suing Trump, citing insufficient grounds to proceed. And joining me now, the mayor of Miami Beach and Hillary Clinton surrogate Philip Levine, radio host Fernand Amandi, Catherine Sirks, co-founder of the Women Vote Trump Super PAC, and David Korn from Mother Jones. Thank you all for being here. And Phil, I'm going to go to you first on this because you also do a radio show down there in Miami. What are people saying about this Pam Bondi situation?
Well, I can tell you as the mayor of Miami Beach that, you know, campaign finance reform is necessary in our state. It's necessary across the country. You know, to speak specifically about Attorney General Bondi, I don't know enough about the case, the facts, but I can tell you this. Trump University, we know, is a fraud. We know that these people obviously were ripped off. But what it's part of who Donald Trump is. I mean, clearly, you know, I'm sure our governor graduated from Trump University. We know that a lot of Trump's friends graduated from his university. It's scams, it's fraud, it's this, it's that. I know that Eric Schneiderman, the Attorney General in New York, has done a great job bringing this to light. I have a lot of confidence in him. But as far as our Attorney General, I know this is a very cloudy situation, and I think that we'll wait for our state to look into it and understand better what exactly happened.
Well, I do want to read the statement that we did receive from Pam Bondi. This is her response to the AP story. She says, yesterday's story was false and misleading, including statements that my office, quote, publicly announced that I was deliberating whether to join a lawsuit or that I nixed suing Trump. My office has made public every document on this issue, which shows no one in my office ever opened an investigation on Trump University, nor was there a basis for doing so. Any news story that suggests otherwise is completely false. However, there is an Orlando Sentinel story that our wonderful producers here, AM Joy, unearthed from September of 2013. And it says, New York's Trump U suit draws Florida officials' attention. That's the headline. It says, now Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi's office is reviewing the New York lawsuit's allegations to determine whether Florida should join the multi-state case, a spokesman for the Republican Attorney General said on Wednesday. Fernand, how much of a problem is this potentially for Bondi?
This isn't a problem. This is a nightmare, Joy, because it basically gets to all of the problems around Donald Trump and her support of the Donald Trump campaign. You now have ethics complaints. You have her top staffers having departed in response to this message. And the reason this is really, for a lot of people that are anti-Trump, they see this as having, in essence, cracked the code, because Trump University is quickly becoming, in this 2016 campaign, what Bain Capital was in the 2012 campaign for Mitt Romney. The reason this is even metastasized into a bigger problem is because it goes into the most important battleground state in the country, Florida. It taints Pam Bondi. It taints Rick Scott, who was Pam Bondi's choice to be on the cabinet. It also goes into these allegations, not just of pay for play, but pay to look the other way. This isn't the first time these types of allegations have been made against Attorney General Pam Bondi. And as you point out, that Orlando Sentinel article from 2013, what happens, surprise, surprise, a couple of months after that? Donald Trump gives a contribution to Pam Bondi, which turns out to be an illegal contribution because it comes from his foundation. It's all kinds of bad for Pam Bondi and Donald Trump.
Yeah, and David Corn, you say Mitt Romney, I say David Corn, because you guys at Mother Jones took what was a Florida story, Mitt Romney speaking at a private fundraiser down in Florida, and that became the whole 47% meme. Is this the kind of story that winds up hurting Donald Trump, or does it really wind up mostly taking Pam Bondi potentially off the table, let's say, as a potential vice presidential pick, and then that's as far as it goes?
Well, I certainly think it takes her off the list. I don't know who wants to be on that list these days, but if she did, she's gone. And I think what was just said is right. I mean, this, Trump University really shows the whole Trump methodology of selling your name, making promises you can't keep, collecting money, and moving on and leaving other people behind in the wake of the scam to pick up the pieces and clean up. And so the fact that now, in Florida, it has its own little version, or big version, of the Trump University narrative is going to make it very hard for Trump, I think, to win the state. It will keep reminding people of Trump University, which he doesn't want to have happen. And I don't know how he can beat Hillary Clinton if he doesn't win Florida. So I think it's, politically it's terrible, but just in terms of, again, showing people the Trump MO, it's really by the numbers here. This is how he does things. And you don't have to take it from me. Take it from Donald Trump. He buys politicians when he needs to, and he brags that they kiss his ass.
Yeah.
Well, this is a pretty good example of that.
Well, Catherine, I'm going to give you now a chance to respond to all of that, because you did have Donald Trump boasting about the fact that he can give politicians money and that they would do his bidding. You have now not only Florida, but also Texas attorney generals at least alleged to have pulled back on investigating Trump University when New York and other states were going forward. You are a Trump surrogate and supporter. Is this a problem potentially for Trump's base, which are, let's face it, a lot of working class people who were essentially the targets of Trump University?
I don't think it's a problem for the base at this point, and the reason for that is we don't know exactly what's gone on, and as one of the other panelists pointed out, this may be more of a problem for Bondi if she solicited donations, or if she let it influence her. I don't know what was done. There's no evidence, no definite evidence of a quid pro quo, so I don't know what happened here. What of course makes me think of, though, is why is Trump University, when we talk about not bringing up the past, why is Trump University so important? I'm very concerned about what Hillary Clinton has done and the foundation has done and her husband has done with that university situation, because it sounds as though she may have actually used her position as Secretary of State to peddle influence. That concerns me more.
Captain, do you realize that you just said you don't understand why we're bringing up the past, and then you immediately brought up the past about Hillary Clinton? I mean, it's very good as a surrogate that you pivot immediately to Hillary, but the question that I'm asking you is about the base of Trump's voters. They are working class in a lot of cases, working class white Americans who are the very people that Trump University went after. Don't you think that's relevant? If somebody who wants to be president made money by potentially scamming folks?
No, let me clarify.
No, but I want you to answer my question about Trump University. Don't you think it might be problematic just for some people who
I'm going to answer what I'm going to answer, which is that you asked me about bringing up the past.
No, I didn't. You brought up bringing up the past. I didn't ask you about that.
Criticisms of Donald Trump about bringing up Hillary's past. And then they bring up Donald Trump's past. So
you don't think that this is relevant? You don't think that whether or not Trump University potentially defrauded people, you think that's not relevant?
I am much more concerned about whether
You think
Hillary
it's not
Clinton
relevant?
used
Okay, I know
her
you're pivoting. You're doing your thing as a
influence as
surrogate. David
Secretary
Corn,
of
let me go to
State.
you on this because the question is, Catherine is clearly going to answer any question about Trump with an answer about Hillary.
Yeah.
But does that indicate that perhaps
No,
on the
I
Trump
answered
side,
your question
no, you
about
didn't,
Trump, that I didn't
you
think it was
didn't
a
tell me if you think it's not a problem. Good, now you've answered it. David Corn, do you think that when you're looking at a candidate whose appeal is in large part to white working class Americans, does this present a problem, or is this something that, to Catherine's point, is not relevant because it's too far in the past?
I think a narrative is coming out of Trump University, but also these other stories coming out that he doesn't pay his bills. That this is a guy who's willing to screw business partners or customers, you know, people like to come to Trump University, to put money in his already deep pockets. And, you know, we had USA Today this week to come up with hundreds of cases of Trump not paying contractors, working class people. We're talking about painters and drywall people. We at Mother Jones did a story this week about an 82-year-old Latvian immigrant in Miami who put in the chandeliers in Mar-a-Lago, and Trump wouldn't pay his bill and they had to go to court. And so that's all part of this, that he's willing to make a quick buck any which way he can, and if it hurts a bank, he's happy. If it hurts contractors, he doesn't care. And if he's defrauding people, it's alleged, if he's defrauding those students at Trump University, he says no big deal, and he moves on to another scheme.
Well,
that's the big picture that's going to hurt him with some voters.
Yeah, Phil, Catherine is laughing about that, but you're in Miami Beach. You're in Miami. You know, the Doral golf resort that Trump owns is there. Mar-a-Lago is there. Some of these stories do actually touch on Miami contractors and small businesses. Is this something that you're hearing there on the ground in South Florida?
Absolutely, but I got to tell you something. I'm an entrepreneur and a business person, and I got to tell you something. I don't want to defend Donald Trump, but I got to say one thing. The course was learn Donald Trump's secrets to success. And Donald Trump did deliver those secrets. Course 101, fraud. Course 102, scams. Course 103, misrepresentation. And of course, the biggest course that Donald Trump is known for, inheritance. Because we know Donald Trump, A, is not a billionaire. Number two, he inherited the money from his daddy. Okay, and Donald Trump has a history, a graveyard of bad business deals, bad business partners. Thank God he has his father's money. But the man we know is a fraud. We've heard it for years, and now the American public is starting to learn about it. Trump University is the perfect university for him. I understand Bernie Madoff may be a visiting professor. It would be very, very apropos.
All right, I'm going to give you the last one because you are also our numbers guy here. Does this present a problem? Because I am really interested in whether or not a story like this actually resonates only with people who are like Phil Levine, you know, on the Hillary Clinton side of the ledger, or people in the media, or whether or not there's something actually there when you're talking about small business people, when you're talking about the painter, the waiter, the little guy, the person in South Florida that may have actually been victimized by this. Is there a potential opportunity here for Democrats that's concrete and that moves over into the sort of white voter base of Donald Trump?
No question. Joy, this is deadly for Trump because he spent the last year and a half developing this narrative about how he's going to make America great again. Just trust him. Just listen to him. He's going to negotiate his way out of problems. Just like he tried to suggest he was going to teach the secret to success for the Trump University students, he's going to do that for the American people. But this Trump University fraud, which is what's clearly becoming and what's clearly destroying his campaign narrative, undermines that argument. And don't take my word for it. Take Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who said he was a con artist.
Yeah, he did before he said he would be honored to help him become president of the United States. Philip Levine, thank you very much. Fernando Mondi, friend of the show, always thank you. And Catherine Sirks, thank you very much. David Corn will be back later in the show. And after.
All right, so it could be quite possible that this Trump University situation is going to metastasize. You know, they're already going after him in California and New York. It looks like Pam Bondi is going to have a huge problem with this situation down in Florida. And if I know the Democrats in Texas, like I know the Democrats in Texas, they are going to jump on the bandwagon on this and try to force the Republican governor and legislature into doing an investigation. So we haven't obviously heard the last about Donald Trump and Trump U, but remember, Donald Trump said it himself out of his own mouth. He pays politicians to do his bidding, and when he calls, they kiss his ass.
Break. If Muhammad